So, if you are new to Unitarian Universalism, you might be curious about why we talk so much about covenant, creating covenant, living in covenant, and of course, returning to covenant. I imagine it is curious for those new to this living tradition, a tradition that seems to believe everything and sometimes nothing, where we join each other in the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, where we have abandoned creeds. For us to be so preoccupied with this old-fashioned term that holds so much promise, perhaps we might jump up and exclaim, "Don't covenants come from God, descending from the sky and mountain in the arms of Moses, delivered to the people of Israel in stone tablets? Isn't that how covenants are made?" Of course, the stories of the Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh, and the Christian New Testament have shaped our understanding of what covenant means as people of faith, and we inherit those traditions, which are also living traditions, and reflect upon them as theological and relational questions of community trust, justice, and ethics. As our tradition has transformed and changed over time, embracing an increasingly pluralistic theological understanding of ourselves and a more robust commitment to freedom and liberation for people and the earth as an expression of our commitment to the social gospel, we have continued to embrace the work of covenant. And there are echoes of Jewish and Christian traditions, but there has been a significant shift towards the power of covenant as it emerges from community. We create community among us. We amplify and lift up our promises and agreements and commitments to each other in the extraordinary work of answering the question, how will we be together? Covenant in our Unitarian Universalist faith tradition emerges from the sacred and holy connections of community. We are not chosen by covenant. Our covenant is how we choose each other over and over again. As elegantly shared in the text Unlocking the Power of Covenant from the UUA Commission on Appraisal, quote, "Unitarian Universalism understands covenants as horizontal, not hierarchical." As Unitarian Universalists, we have come to embrace the process and practice of covenanting as an embodiment of our interdependence, a reflection of our values and principles, and an instrument for creating communities of justice, equity, and accountability. And perhaps we don't talk about it enough, the mechanism through which we grow, nurture, and strengthen trust. Last week, after our multi-generational service at the reflection time with the faith formation team, Werner asked a really important question. He asked, how are we teaching about interdependence in our faith formation program? And there were lots of good responses from Sharon, Bonnie, Teresa, and myself, but there was one important omission. And as it sometimes happens, it hit me on my way home. We learn about interdependence. We live in interdependence. We practice interdependence when we live with our covenants and contributes to the maintenance of our covenants with each other. For example, interdependence can look like deep listening, honoring and respecting the boundaries, needs, and requests of those in our community, especially those folks different from us. Covenant can ask that we consider our impact on the planet with our actions. Covenant can ask that we consider how power and privilege shape and influence our spaces, and ask that our spaces be places where we are committed to justice. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's famous quote from Letter from Birmingham Jail brings this home pretty powerfully. Quote, "In a real sense, all life is interrelated. All men, all people are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be, and you can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be." This is the interrelated structure of reality. Our covenants support us in being and becoming who we ought to be together, celebrating our differences and rejoicing in our shared purpose. Covenants are reflections of our values and principles. Perhaps this goes without saying, but perhaps we can't say it enough. The agreements and promises we make emerge from the holy ground of our faith, the love at the center of our faith. We turn to generosity, justice, equity, transformation, interdependence, and pluralism, the jet pig. The jet pig to hold us in relationship. And this is one way we live our faith, move our values into actions in our congregations and subsequently our wider world. When doing the work of covenant and co-creation, we might consider how our values show up. How does justice show up in our covenant? Justice is a commitment to, quote, work to be a diverse, multicultural, beloved community where all feel welcome and can thrive. Such questions and observations are essential to the process of making agreements and making promises that support not just our current moment, but the future of our faith and the future of our community. Our covenants are opportunities to be preemptively, wholeheartedly places of welcome for people of all backgrounds and experiences. Covenants are justice-seeking promises and agreements that challenge us to learn and to grow. And this is super important. We grow into our covenants because it is, and I bet you've heard this before, inevitable that we will fall short of them. We are each, after all, wonderfully imperfect people who, in spite of our best intentions, will make mistakes. We will fall short. We will hurt those we care deeply about. What covenant offers is a way back into relationships full of love and grace, relationships that hold us up when we fall. There is beauty in that, generosity and love in the work of reconciliation and vulnerability. Covenant reminds us that we are loved and lovable. Covenant is how we live the promise of love among us. And I'm reminded of this beautiful UU hymn, "There is a love." doing the work of listening, repair, of being radically interdependent is how we nurture trust for the long haul. As we continue to bear witness to the barrage and betrayals and failures by those elected and not elected, to protect our Constitution and the people of this country, we must be intentional and sensitive about our commitment to nurturing trust in our relationships and our community. We have been betrayed, and we can build trust here. We develop trust by taking time to know each other, to value what is most important among us. We develop trust by making mistakes and, yes, making amends. We grow trust each time we show up, ready to put our faith into action. The covenants we co-create have medicinal and healing powers, through which their innate capacity to celebrate and center what is most important: people, relationships, community, and justice. Covenants can heal, restore, and redeem a broken world. Beloveds, may the work ahead be joyous, full of heart and good humor, grounded in our values and the courageous love that lives at the center of our faith. Remember, we are architects of love and hope, and it begins with the covenants we create and our commitment to building the beloved community right here, right now, as a beacon and refuge for the world. May it be so. Amen. Ashe, and blessed be.